暁は集った。
Villain groups. They're iconic, they're memorable. They say hero is only as good as his villain, and sometimes a manga's best writing can be found in its antagonists. But there's one villain group that's consistently brought up in contention for the best. The Akatsuki. With the style, the presence, and the mix of terrifying abilities, many agree that they are the best villain group in anime. Now, personally, I haven't read every manga and watched every anime, so I can't really say that for certain. What I can say for certain is that among villain groups I'm aware of, the Akatsuki are definitely the most unique in one aspect that I believe is fundamental to their popularity and the impact they bring. But before I bring that up, I want to take a moment to reflect on the individuals that make up this group, because that will be relevant. And that's an important point to make. Individuals. Because under normal circumstances, it's hard to imagine the Akatsuki actually choosing to be in a group. Each member is written to have their own motivations and philosophies. The fact they worked in duos only emphasizes this because it allowed Kishimoto to create characters that could have interesting conflict synergy. Deidara and Sasori are powerful shinobi whose powers reflect their opposing views on art. Hidan and Kakuzu, the zombie combo, are undead ninja who are motivated by two things that are so good at creating conflict and also so good at coming into conflict with each other: religion and money. Itachi and Kisame have opposing personalities and vibes, yet they reflect each other so well when it comes to the concept of loyalty. Pain and Konan are characters who are actually motivated to achieve the Akatsuki's original goal of peace, even as they devolve into violent means. Tobi and Zetsu, well, we all watched the war arc. I don't want to get into too much detail about the individual members of the Akatsuki, but it goes without saying that they are a very varied collection of characters whose personalities and involvement in the story can be identified by even the most casual of watchers and readers. Larger than life personalities that frankly can barely fit together in their own organization. These are important components because if the individual members of the group aren't that interesting, then it falls apart before it truly begins. But the thing that truly sets the Akatsuki apart is actually connected to the structure of Naruto as a whole, and that's in the longevity of the group. Think about it, how long have the Akatsuki been the villain group of the series? The answer is, since the search for Tsunade. In fact, as an ex-member, Orochimaru might be seen as an example of the group's effects reaching the main characters as early as the Chunin exams. The thing that sets the Akatsuki apart is that for a large part of early Naruto and all of Shippuden, they maintained a monopoly on being the antagonistic force of the ninja world, stretching through multiple arcs. Compare them to their competition among other shonen: Bleach, Fairy Tail, Black Clover, One Piece. Most of these stories have multiple villain teams, each relegated to their own specific arcs. But up until the Boruto era, the Akatsuki were the definitive villains. Of course, this isn't as simple as saying that you should maintain one villain group for a whole story. Different stories require different things. But that's where it's important to look at the structure of the story and how the Akatsuki act within it. Take the Kazekage Rescue Mission. It's an arc that has the Akatsuki as the villains, but Deidara and Sasori act as main antagonists, with Sasori essentially being the final boss. Then there's the Akatsuki Suppression arc, where Kakuzu and Hidan act as different final bosses to the two different storylines running through it. Or take a look over at what Sasuke is doing. Deidara acts as a sort of mid-boss on his way to defeat the current villain of his life, Itachi, and everything from the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant to the Pain arc had Pain take center stage as the story's main villain before Obito steps up to the plate. This is where the individualistic nature of the Akatsuki comes into play. They act not just as a villain group, but as a group of final antagonists that work together. And because of this, most of them have a level of development you simply wouldn't get if the entire group was fought in a single arc. Take a look at the Espada. Quite frankly, characters like Zomari, Stark, and Haribel, while not terrible, are simply limited because to try and develop them to the same level as, say, Grimmjow would get in the way of the plot. But Hidan and Kakuzu, who would probably be the most forgotten and least developed members of the Akatsuki if they were all fought in one arc, get the whole of the Akatsuki Suppression arc to themselves and even act as a driving motivator for the emotions of the arc. Each individual Akatsuki member essentially gets to shine with all the focus you'd expect from a main arc villain in another anime. And this is where the individuality comes back as an important factor. While the Akatsuki are focused on the same goal, they are independent enough to give each conflict a unique flavor. Sasori's motivations and the emotions he brings forth in the fight he dies in are different from Deidara's, which in turn are completely different from the deaths of Pain and Konan. While they are all ostensibly part of a single organization, the conflicts never feel repetitive. Now, I'm sure some of you are furiously bringing up examples of similar teams in the comments. There's the Phantom Troop, who are long-lasting and rather well developed, but they only appear sporadically through the story and very rarely are the focus of the arc they are in. There's the 10 Commandments, but they don't have the same arc boss energy for when they come into conflict with the heroes because they operate as more of a closely knit group. There's also the League of Villains to consider. However, they don't quite hit the mark for two reasons. They aren't really the only villain group in the story and often wind up taking a backseat to other antagonists. The only antagonists the Akatsuki really had to take a backseat to after they were introduced were Orochimaru and Danzo, and even Danzo's defeat was a direct result of their plans. Along with this, they still operate in a way that allows certain members to be overshadowed, such as Mr. Compress and Magne. Not to say they should be written differently, the way the League is written works for what MHA is going for. Honestly, the League of Villains deserves their own analysis that you should subscribe to my channel to see. I'd also like to bring up the 12 Demon Moons from Demon Slayer, mostly to say I'm an anime only on that one, so I can't really speak on the quality of the whole group, though the ones we have seen who weren't killed by Muzan do exemplify what I'm talking about, with each battle to take down one of them being an amazingly animated emotional climax to the arcs they appear in. Maybe this will be consistent, or maybe the remaining members will be fought all in one single arc and completely be irrelevant to my point. I couldn't say, but I just like to point out that every time one of the moons is taken down, the show winds up trending on Twitter and we're still on a single antagonist group, which probably makes Demon Slayer the closest to what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying that villain groups who don't do this are bad. This isn't meant to ask for more villain groups that operate like the Akatsuki. It's simply an analysis on why the Akatsuki are so popular and how the way Naruto is written may have contributed to that. And my conclusion is that they are written in a way to allow almost every member to essentially receive the development and focus of a final antagonist of an arc, which, combined with the quality of their writing as individuals, allows for a level of memorability that simply would not be possible otherwise. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.